Las conferencias del día de hoy son porque celebramos 24 años como capítulo estudiantil. El capítulo estudiantil se fundó en 1999, un 6 de marzo. Entonces, estas charlas son para ustedes, espero que les guste. Esta primera charla va a ser en inglés, entonces, para que pongan mucha atención. Vamos a presentar a nuestra ponente. Voy a leer un poco de su semblanza.
Voy a leer un poco de su semblanza. Cassandra Francisca Dewan cuenta con una ingeniería de procesos en química y una licenciatura en ciencias de un doctorado en ingeniería de materiales y metalúrgica y una maestría en ciencias en ingeniería petrolera, doctorado en ingeniería metalúrgica y de materiales, Universidad Federal del Río de Janeiro, Brasil, maestría en ingeniería de petróleo del 2012 al 2018, Universidad de las Indianas Occidentales, licenciatura en ingeniería química y de procesos, 2006-2010, Universidad de las Indias Occidentales, campus de ST, Agustín, Trinidad y Tobago. Actualmente es ingeniera de auditoría para optimizar equipo de ventas en comercial en SLB, Sistemas de Producción Río de Janeiro, Brasil, generando informes profesionales que aborden las ganancias rápidas de los clientes y los principales puntos débiles, realizando simulaciones utilizando la plataforma de software de procesos Symmetry para revisar bucles de instalaciones y mejorar el rendimiento del sistema, ofreciendo a los clientes recomendaciones a largo plazo para mejorar el rendimiento de sus instalaciones, realizando visitas de seguimiento con la primera y última lista de verificación para mostrar al cliente el progreso del proyecto Audit Optimize. Reconocimientos: el SP regional del Young Member Outside Service Award 2020. SP International Cubani Locally Young Professional Service Award 2021. SP TWA Energy Influencer 2022. Actualmente funge como Chairperson de los Young Professionals SPTT.
Bien, te cedemos la palabra, Cassandra.
Okay. So I'm going to talk in English because my Spanish is not so good. I haven't practiced in a while. And thank you for the introduction. So today, Julio asked me to talk a bit about my career path in order to motivate you guys. So basically, I will go through my story and then I will discuss the fields and functions in the energy industries, so to give you an idea of what's outside there, as well as touch a bit on digitalization and the energy transition, as this is the future of our industry. So I started my degree in chemical and process engineering in September 2006. And at this point, I had no idea about the oil and gas industry. I was just doing my degree because I wanted to do makeup, to be in manufacturing. My first job in the oil and gas industry was my internship with BP in 2008. And I worked there as a reservoir engineer, where I was responsible for evaluating some reservoirs using Prosper, Embal, and GAP. So after that, I decided, okay, I want to be a reservoir engineer. And then I had my internship at Fluor Daniel in 2009 as a process engineer. That opened up my mind a bit more about what I could apply my studies to, because I actually did some work using my actual design that I was working on, my design research in that job. But still, I was set on I want to be a reservoir engineer. So in June 2010, I completed my degree and I had an interview with BP. And out of the 5 girls that they interviewed for this position to be a process engineer in BP, they hired 2, and these 2 already had work experience. So that point, I realized that somehow I needed to get work experience if I wanted to work in these top companies, whether it's BP, Shell, BHP. So I continued sending my applications out, looking for jobs, and you could see there was a gap between when I completed my degree in 2010 to where I got my first job as an engineer in 2011. And that was in manufacturing. I was working at a facility where they were now commissioning in order to make Pepsi products as well as blue waters, bottled water. So I worked there for a bit, but I realized that is not where I wanted to be long term, and I didn't like the job, so I left. And I started applying to universities to do my master's. And I applied to my previous university that I did my degree at to do petroleum engineering because I was still set on I want to be a reservoir engineer. And the same time I started my master's in petroleum engineering, I started my first real engineering job as a process engineer at IPSL. So basically, I worked there for 2 years, and I worked as a process engineer where I was responsible for the UAM plant. So this is a downstream facility where basically you bring gas on land from offshore and then you use it to make products. So you can make products such as methane, ammonia, UAN, and urea. And as a process engineer, you're responsible for looking at this process daily to make sure you're meeting your KPIs, your key performance indicators, which is usually your production. So to make sure your product is on spec and you're meeting your daily production, your weekly production, and monthly production. If for some reason you're not meeting those requirements, you need to explain to your client why. So it's your job to investigate. And then maybe your plant will trip. So you need to figure out why it tripped. So this is what I did. And at that point, I realized that I was really enjoying what I was doing. And I liked that I could give back in some way. You felt like you had a purpose. And I continued with my master's. In 2014, there was a downturn in economy. So for that, a lot of us lost our jobs in my country. And once again, I remained without a job until the following year in May 2015. And at that point, I got called back at IPSL, but I also had an opportunity at DNV. And I had to choose between working downstream and working upstream. But because I was doing my master's in petroleum engineering, I decided, let me go upstream and try it or see what it's like. And we all have this dream about going offshore or working on a platform or facility. And I knew if I stayed at IPSL, I wouldn't have had an opportunity. And also, DMB was an international company. So I went to DMB and I started working there as a process engineer, where we were responsible for any new build platforms. So you look at it from design, procurement, construction, and commissioning. And I had to make sure that these new platforms or even new plants met the design requirements needed by the Ministry of Energy in order to get the certification to bring gas onto the facility. So it was a totally different job that I was doing before, but it was a learning experience. And I was getting to see how these platforms operate. I was getting to go offshore. I then finished my degree, my master's in 2018, and my research topic was injecting carbon dioxide into a reservoir, a heavy oil reservoir in Trinidad in order to increase oil recovery. And I was able to present a paper on this. After I finished my master's, I thought, okay, I'm done. I need a break. And then I think I got bored and I decided to do my PhD. And at that point, I was just applying to universities. And I didn't expect to instantly get accepted into university or to have to move so quickly to Brazil. So in March 2019, I moved to Brazil to pursue my PhD, as well as I transferred jobs. So I transferred from DMV Trinidad to DMV Brazil. In December 2020, that's when we had the pandemic. And during the pandemic time, I had a lot of time to think about what I wanted to focus on and which direction I want to take my career. And when I came to Brazil, I was no longer doing the sort of job I was doing in Trinidad. It was a full office job. I was getting more exposure to process safety engineering. And my boss in Brazil wanted me to take a part which is CFD, which is not something I'm passionate about. So we reached a point where it was like my goals or the vision I see for myself for the future was no longer aligned with what they could offer me here in Brazil, and I decided to leave. And I think this is something that is important because a lot of times we stay in jobs because we need to work, right? And we need to provide, and we become unhappy, and it's difficult for us to leave. But for me, it was one of the best decisions because I became happier after and I started to focus more on my PhD. So I took some time to finish my courses as well as to do my qualifier, which is a process here in Brazil. You do your qualifier and then you go on to working on your thesis. And during that time, I got an opportunity to work at Siemens Energy as a process engineer on a decarbonization project in the UAE. But it was virtual and it was a big time difference between the UAE and Brazil. And I know this would have been a full desk job as well, and I wouldn't have gotten exposure to learn with a bunch of different engineers and interaction. And then I got the opportunity in April 2022 to work at Schlumberger. And I had to take it because, again, it was going back to what I like to do, process engineering, being in the field. And what was more exciting is that I'm in a sales and commercial role. So my job is not only technical, but I had the opportunity to learn another side of the business that I've never learned before. I've never thought that I work in sales. My dad was a salesman all his life, and I never thought I could apply engineering to that. So the past year has been a really big learning curve for me. I had to go to sales university to get exposure to a lot of new training. And my current thesis is focused on CCUS, where I'm trying to capture CO2 from the environment and incorporate it in polymers, use it in a process to create biopolymers. And we usually call this the CO2 cycle, right? Which is you reuse whatever CO2 is in the environment in order to help recycle it. And I always had a passion for the environment or trying to save the environment in some way or give back. And I applied to Yale University for a fellowship that I had on climate change. And I'm currently doing that program as well. So my PhD is tentative to finish February 2024. I don't think I'll finish on time, but that's the goal for now. So that was just a history to show you guys that when you finish school, it is going to take some time before you get a job, and that is okay. And as you see, I started off saying I want to be a reservoir engineer, but 10 years later, I'm not a reservoir engineer, but I'm still passionate about my job and what I'm doing. And that's something I need you guys to be, especially now with the change in industry, to be very open-minded. Because when you speak to a lot of students, everyone wants to be a drilling engineer, everyone wants to be a completions engineer, everyone wants to be a reservoir engineer. And it's the competition for these jobs are so high, and that's why a lot of people don't get it. But there are other disciplines or other areas in the industry you could look at. So this is what I try to show here, right? So you could go into production engineering, you could go into facilities or plants, you could go into HSC. HSC is a big part of the oil and gas industry or any industry. So even if you start off in HSC, let's say in manufacturing or downstream, you can move into HSC upstream and even move into another function. And that's something else you need to think about. Maybe you might not get into the company of your dream in the position that you want initially, but you could get in at another position, express your interests when you're hired, and move into that other position eventually. So always keep your options open and think about how you could sell yourself. Entrepreneurship, a lot of my friends now have moved out of the oil and gas industry or taken the experience they had to start their own businesses, whether it's consulting, engineering consulting, whether it's trying to help people with interviews, resumes, find new jobs. So they've gone into recruitment or HR, or whether it's to go into other industries where you could apply your engineering background. So functions in the energy industry. So as I just mentioned, I'm currently in sales and commercial, and I would have never thought that's possible. And after this role, I'm thinking to move into marketing because I really have been enjoying sales and commercial and I want to learn that side of the business. So there are a lot of functions you could go into, such as planning and supply chain. We have HR. A lot of engineers go into HR eventually, and it also helps if you want to go into management positions. You could actually go into legal. I have friends who've done degrees and even masters in law who are engineers in order to get into that specific area in the industry. There's communication, there's finance, there's operations, there's technology and HSSC. So again, is knowing the different options out there. Not everyone is going to work in operations. The jobs, as you all know, are limited in certain areas, but you could apply to work in human resources, which will help you to use your expertise. Let's say you're a very outgoing person, you're very extrovert, you like talking to people, meeting new people, helping people. Maybe HR will be a nice area for you. Or communication, you like giving presentations, you like talking to other people, you like trying to figure things out, trying to solve problems. Again, communication might be something you're interested in. So when you're applying for jobs, don't only look on LinkedIn for a reservoir engineer. Don't only look for drilling. Look at all the different options and apply for it and tailor your resume as well to suit those positions. You can't submit the same resume you're submitting for a reservoir engineering job for, let's say, a HR position. So you need to, each job sits with the description and tailor your resume to fit those descriptions. So in addition to the conversation I'm having with you guys today, I just wanted to let you know that we have the virtual career pathway fair coming up in April this month, so next month. And we're actually going to have a lot of sessions, about 10 sessions, some specifically on digitalization, sustainability, even unconscious biasness. But why it's important to attend is because we have booths. I think this year we have about 16 to 18 booths with each of these different careers. And you could go to each booth and ask questions to professionals like myself who are already working in the industry. So in that way, you can get a feel of what is out there or what might be best suited for you, what you might like. So I highly recommend registering for the virtual career pathway fair and attending it. And also something you need to think about in your career now is getting mentors, coaches, and advocates and knowing the difference. So a mentor is someone you could contact to ask for advice. So this is someone you might have a problem, you might need help with a project, or you might just want to discuss problems you may be having, whether it's communicating on a project you're working with, you're having some difficulties or whatnot. A coach is someone who will help guide you, but not necessarily someone you go to for support. So they give you all the general information you need in your career path, but they're not necessarily your mentor. So in work, let's say your mentor might be your senior engineer, your senior engineer, and your coach might be a manager. And then advocates. Advocates are people that could speak on a higher level about you. So that you go into a meeting and there's a position available, that person could say, yes, I recommend so and so because I know this person. So your advocate doesn't necessarily have to be someone you work directly with in the company. It could be someone from another division, another section in the company. But it's important to have advocates, and this is where networking comes in really well. So that's the next point that is very important now in your career. Try to attend as much SP events as you can. Try to attend as much conferences. Get your name known, because in an interview, you never know who's going to be the interviewer. And maybe someone might see your resume, or you might come in the interview and they'll say, I remember you from this event. And SP people tend to support each other. So if they know you from before and they know your involvement in SP, and you go into a meeting and they see your face again, they could advocate for you and say, yes, I know this individual, and I could vouch that they'll make a good candidate for this job. So there's just some other takeaways I want you to take from the conversation we're having today is networking, having mentors, coaches, and advocates. So digitalization. A lot of times, people ask how to get a job in digitalization, or you hear this term a lot, but you don't know how it applies to you. And at the end of the day, you're all good candidates to work in this area, right? You just need to know your personal skills and apply it when you're doing your resume or when you're in the interview. And these are some qualities that we look for when we're hiring for digitalization. So you look for personal skills, you look for the ability to challenge the status quo. So you must be able to have the unique perspective on things, right? How could you make a process better? How could you simplify this process and have the same results? Right? You have to be inquisitive how things work, because most of the people that work in digitalization, they have to solve problems or break it down into processes and develop a program or software or something to make it work, right? You have to understand the technical domain you want to digitalize. So, for example, if you are working with process and you want to develop a software to module a process or to um, optimize processes, you need to understand how process engineering work, how this particular process works. And you need to know how to construct efficient work processes. So, and this is applicable to anything, work processes. So you always start with your problem, definition, and then your objective. So these are some things that they're going to look for when they're doing an interview for digitalization. And don't ever be afraid to ask for help. At the end of the day, we all don't know everything. I don't know everything. Sometimes I need to call different engineers from different departments to get help with stuff or to support an idea or to explain things to me. And it's okay to admit in an interview if you don't know something than to lie and say, yes, I know how something works, right? Because then when they hire you, they will see whether you were telling the truth or not. And another question we get asked a lot is what programs to learn? So the best programs to learn might be Python and MATLAB, right? So data science programs. And if you ask X number of people, what does digitalization mean? Everybody will give you a different meaning. It means something different to everyone, right? So in the end of the day, it is just a room to invent new ways to work or succeed. And there are different objectives in digitalization. So each company may have its own definition of digitalization. Each company may have its own objective, right, of how they're going to achieve whatever they're trying to set out with respect to digitalization. And what you have to be very good at in digitalization is pitching your idea to management. So if you want to move up in digitalization or move into digitalization, you need to be able to pitch your idea. And we go back to where I said you have your problem definition and the objective, understanding the processes and how you're going to solve the problem you're trying to solve, right? And also, don't feel down when you get rejected. I know it's really hard applying for jobs because you apply for a lot of jobs. And I've been through this a couple of times and nobody responds back to you. And you're there waiting on an email or phone call, nothing. Or sometimes you do an interview and you're there waiting a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sending HR a message, hey, how the interview went, did I make it to second stage? No response. And I think this is a problem we have today, right, with HR ghosting potential candidates. But at the end of the day, you can't take this and make it affect you in any way or feel negative. The problem is not you. You just need to keep applying until you get a job. And then when you have the interview, go in there and do your best. So the energy transition. A lot of times, nowadays you hear a lot about the energy transition. And again, each company might have a different definition of what this is or a different goal they're trying to meet. Right now, a lot of talk is on the Paris Agreement targets. So we have our 2030 targets and our 2050 targets. And companies are trying to use different technologies in order to meet these targets. And the main target is the 1.5 degrees Celsius reduction, right? And in order to achieve that, we need to reduce CO2 emission. So these are several technologies that different companies are looking into. The most famous right now, I think, is CCUS, which has been around for a long time and is very developed. Hydrogen energy is now becoming more popular as well, and a lot of research still needs to be done into hydrogen energy in order to make it um, at level 9 or 10, which is readiness level. Solar energy, wind energy has been around for a very long time, and they're very mature technologies, and they are being used a lot in Europe and offshore. Now we're looking more into geothermal energy, hydro energy, and biomass energy. So try to do research and learn more of these different types of energies and figure out which one you're passionate about. For example, I'm very passionate about CCUS and hydrogen energy. If you're very strong in mechanical engineering or electrical engineering, you might be more drawn to solar energy or wind energy. So do your research, and especially when you go into an interview, be able to talk a bit about either of these technologies and show that you've been learning more about the energy transition. So another question that pops up a lot is, what is the difference between renewable energy and sustainable energy? And it's important for you to understand this as well, right? So renewable energy is energy that can be replenished over time. So popular renewable energies will be your solar energy and your wind energy. And sustainable energy is energy from sources that can replenish themselves faster than they are depleted, meaning that you're using it and it's not going to run out. As fast as you use solar energy, for example, it's replenish itself again. So coal, for example, which is what we first started out with years ago, it is not green, is not, but it's a is not green, clean, renewable, or sustainable, right? Oil. Oil is not green, is not clean, is not renewable, or not sustainable because we use oil and we realize we are running out of it. It's not an infinite source of oil. Hydropower, for example, it could damage the environment. So it is not green, clean, renewable, or sustainable. And as I mentioned, solar energy is green, it's clean, it's sustainable. Wind energy is clean, green, and sustainable. And so is geothermal energy and wave and tidal energy. What is a decarbonization of energy systems? So this is the next topic that is discussed a lot. And this simply means that you're replacing the fossil fuel energy sources, which is currently oil and gas, with energy sources that emit less CO2, right? And you see a lot of companies are moving in this direction where they're trying to make hybrid systems where you use oil and you also use solar and wind, or in the future, maybe take that solar and convert it into hydrogen energy and store it to be used in the future when there's a low supply of energy. So look and do some more research into decarbonizing energy systems to understand what it is and what can be done so that in an interview you could bring it up, or even you could figure out which jobs to apply for with respect to this. So in summary, I just want to say that do not limit yourself. Don't think because you do petroleum engineering, you have to be a petroleum engineer or reservoir drilling. Be very open-minded and explore all the opportunities it have out there because there are many possibilities. And even if you start off in one direction, it could bring you back in the direction you want to be in. And use SP is a very useful source. For example, because I presented my paper at an SP conference, this is how I was able to get into my PhD program so fast because some of the attendees were from this university. So they knew me from before and they were able to talk to the professor. I explained to her about my work as well as what I do for SP. So try to volunteer as much in SP or in other groups, right? You don't have to only volunteer for SP, you could volunteer for any other social groups that you have within your community so that people could get to know you. And that's one way of networking. Another way of networking is going to the SP events, speaking to people. And something I always tell people, don't go up to someone you meet in SB event and say you're looking for a job right away, or ask them what company they're working for, and then you jump into asking them to hire you. Try to get to know that person. Try to build a relationship with that person. Maybe even ask to add them on LinkedIn. And I'm sure when you add them on LinkedIn, they will view your profile and they will see that you're looking for a job. So try to talk about other things besides the fact that you're looking for a job when you now meet someone for the first time. And get a mentor. SB has a program, SB mentor program is also a website on it. So you could Google it and try to get a mentor through that. Or you could ask someone that you know to be a mentor. And this is something that's helped me a lot lately, is having mentors to give you advice, especially when there's a lot of things going on and you need to figure things out in a quick pace, or you need a second opinion on how to do something. A mentor always comes in handy. So I want to thank you guys for taking the time to attend this session today. I hope you were able to learn something, and I'm available now for questions.
Hi, Cassandra. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Hey, Julio. Yes, I can.
Okay. First of all, I love your British accent and thank to support the young professional from Mexico. I have a couple of questions. For you, which is important to have a high goals, because the rest of the young professional in the most of the cases spare just a little things, but you have a high goals. So which is important to have it?
Julio, what do you mean by high goals?
Yeah, you are studying a PhD, so a master, change your residence, or even the change for a global company. So this is for me a high goals.
Mhm. Okay, so uh, I I didn't have like a defined path. Like I know a lot of people, they know where they want to be in 5, 10 years, and I never thought about doing a master's or even a PhD. After my degree, I thought that was it, and I'll get married and have kids. But then after I finished my degree, I realized I wanted to move into oil and gas, and that's why I did my master's and then I did my PhD, because I had the time and the flexibility. Moving to a new country was hard, especially far from home and a different language as well. And the advice I could give is that, not to give up. Everything is hard at first. When I started Slumberjay, the first 6 months was really hard. As I said, it was a very big learning curve, and there's a lot to learn at once. And the main thing is prioritizing your time, and as well as time for yourself. I think this is something people neglect, whether it's making time to meditate, making time to go to the gym, making time to eat properly. So you need to be healthy in order to accomplish all your goals or to reach far, right? So to me, that's one thing is important, is always taking care of myself first, and then being able to distribute or share myself among other things. And it comes down to I'm looking for the word. It comes down to time management and how you prioritize what you want to do. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, thanks. Another question. You talk about digitalization. In this context, what do you recommend to have the hard skills to resolve problems in oil and gas industry?
Okay. So in terms of software, I think it's very important to learn Python, because a lot of people use Python as well as MATLAB. So those are the hard skills. And also knowing how to solve problems. As I discussed earlier, the processes, how you go about solving a problem, because most time they're going to come to you with a problem, and you need to know how to break that down in order to design a software or to design a solution to solve that problem.
Yeah, definitely is very very important to know a different language to program and resolve. Yeah. Well, I'm very happy because Marcel Diaz is here. I invite to her just to to have more comments. But if you give me the permission, I have just a little more question.
Mhm.
And this one is in an interview, how do you start to introduce yourself with a technical topic or personal things just to try to connect with the interviewer?
Okay, so we have something you call the elevator speech. So you guys could look up more on it after. So basically, they say you have like 1 minute or less to sell yourself, right? And within that 1 minute, you have to say what you want that person to take away or remember from you. So I wouldn't say based to sell yourself technically. Don't talk so technical, but what you bring to the table, what you offer, how you solve problems in the past, or what you bring into the company within that 1 minute. Because when you make it to an interview, basically everybody have all the technical skills. That is why you make it to the interview. So at the interview now, you need to distinguish yourself from everyone else. And the way to do that is to sell yourself and tell the company what you have to offer them.
Great, thanks so much. I don't
You're
know
welcome.
If Maciel have some questions, please, Maciel. Any comment? Thank you so much, Cassandra.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. I don't have any questions, but Cassandra, excellent job. You did amazing. I really loved your talk and everything that you said, and I loved how you answered every question as well. So no question on my end, just big congratulations. It was very nice to listen to this.
Thank you, Marcel.
Thank you, Marcel. Daniela, any comments, any questions?
No, sí se escuchó. I just
Sí,
want to say
adelante.
thank you, Cassandra, for attendance to this conference. I love the conference, and the part that really makes me too much fun was when you say apply, 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 because some of my friends really want to get a job, but they, in this moment, don't get accepted. So thank you. I will send you the. I'm gonna show you the.
Thank you to be here, Cassandra, and for your early response also.
Thank you guys for the invitation. I really appreciate it. And I hope that everyone enjoyed the talk and took something away from it.
Yes, and the important to be the talk in English is just to push the students to have another language, because the rest of your life you will use it. Yeah.
Yeah. I should challenge myself to do it in Spanish, but you will get Portugal.
Well, you speak many languages, and this is very pretty good.
It's always good to have more than one language. And I think that's a good thing about being in South America or even Central, so Latin America in a whole, is that you're exposed to more than one language, which makes you more marketable.
Procederemos con la entrega del reconocimiento. ¿Sí pueden ver mi pantalla?
Sí.
Sí, ok. el Instituto Politécnico Nacional, la Escuela Superior de Ingeniería y Arquitectura, Ciencias de la Tierra, a través del capítulo estudiantil de la Society of PetroleumEngineers, otorga el presente reconocimiento a Cassandra Dewan por su excelente participación impartiendo la conferencia Career Oportunities in the Energy Industry. Thank you so much, Cassandra.
Thank you, guys. Have a good evening and enjoy the rest of your conference.
We want to take a picture with you.
Okay.
So give me 1 minute.
Thanks so much. I send a big hug until Brazil, Cassandra.
Aren't you supposed to come Brazil?
Say it again.
You are supposed to come to Brazil, right?
Yeah.
Inge, Julio, igual si quiere prender su cámara porque ya están todos los chicos acá en el auditorio, se están formando para tomar la foto. Entonces, si quiere salir también en la foto, igual Maciel, Francisco, quienes estén aquí en línea.
Listo. ¿Cuántos se reunieron en el auditorio, Daniela?
Como 30 personas, es que estaba tomando la foto, perdone. Me voy a poner también para salir en la foto, así que sonríen.
Okay. I say, Cassandra, you are reproduce this talk in the auditorium of the school, in my university, and there are so many students, so almost 30 persons. So we are so happy to be here, and just we take the picture for have the souvenir. Yeah.
Okay.
Listo, ya tomamos la foto. Listo, Inge, ya quedó. Muchísimas gracias a Inge, Julio, por contactarnos con usted, Cassandra. Estamos muy agradecidos y esperamos